the stage of steadiness in devotional service. Nishtha.
स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वापदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवंश्च श्रीरूपं सादरजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं हरिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदान् सहगना ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोस्तुते तप्तकाञ्चना गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Very grateful to be with all of you this evening, especially to be reunited with my very dear and worshipful God brother, His Holiness Romapada Swami Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj, for your beautiful explanation. Nishtha. His words have great potency to awaken that quality of Nishtha within our hearts, because he genuinely and sincerely strives to live by that standard. And not only that, but he does live by that standard. We have seen in Maharaj's life, inconceivable obstacles, difficulties within his areas of responsibility, within the country of America, and within the entire planet Earth. And how spontaneously, with total dedication, he steps forward to take the lead in helping in such situations, and remains fixed in his Vaishnava, in his devotional character, fixed in his commitment, responsibility to serve under those circumstances in a very exemplary way. That is practical nishtha. Even more than what we hear from him, we can understand and have faith in his words by seeing him. And we thank you for that, Maharaj. It's not that difficult to speak something, but to actually live it year after year, even in the face of temptations, even in the face of obstacles. That is the real test of our sincerity. And that Srila Prabhupada accepted as the testament of our love for Krishna. So we are very blessed to hear His Holiness Romapada Maharaj speaking what he lives in his life for the benefit of all of us. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he spoke prema-pumartha Mahan, that the real goal of life is to awaken the dormant love for God, for Krishna, that is within the heart of every living being. Sabai Bhangsho Radhanath Swami, that the supreme dharma, the supreme spiritual path or religion, the Bhagavatam does not say it's about being a Hindu or a Muslim or a Jew or a Christian or a Parsi or a Sikh or a Gnostic or anything else. The real perfection of Dharma is to love God, to develop a real taste for hearing and chanting and serving the Lord. Nitya-siddha Krishna prema satya kabunoi saravanadi sudichiti koriya yudoi. And that love is within the heart of every living being. It is Sanatana Dharma, our eternal, inseparable nature. Just like the dharma of sugar is to be sweet and the dharma of water is liquid. If you put it in an artificial state, it becomes solid, but if it's in its natural environment, it becomes liquid naturally. Our nature is to love God. It is not only within us, it is the very core of our existence. And it's what we're searching for, what we're longing for at every moment. In forgetfulness of that, we try to seek that pleasure in so many different situations, in many ways. But yada yada hi dharamasya glanirpavati bharata. Krishna tells in the Gita that the Lord descends into this world specifically and especially to teach us what we're really looking for, where to find it and how to find it. We're all looking for that love, unconditional, unmotivated love that is within us. And to connect with God's love, which is unlimited and perfect. So the whole process of bhakti, from the beginning to the end, is the awakening of that love at various stages. Sripad Romapada Maharaj explained the story of the bhakti-lata bija, the seed of devotion. It's described that after wandering through this material existence for many, many births, when one is extremely fortunate, one comes in contact with a saintly person, with a guru, who awakens that seed of devotion that is within our heart and teaches us the process of protecting and watering that seed. Through the 9 processes of devotional service, we water that seed, especially by hearing the truth, by hearing the message of Godhead through the lips and the hearts of genuine and sincere practitioners. And kirtanam, chanting the holy names of the Lord, chanting the glories of the Lord, and speaking the glories of the Lord. And through this process, smaranam, we can remember Krishna. The perfection of life is to always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. So by following these principles in the association of devotees, this is bhajana-kriyā. sādhu-sańga. First, there's a little faith within our heart. And as Maharaj said, through that faith we are directed by the Lord within our heart to the association of devotees. In that association, we learn the process of watering the seed of devotion. And as the seed grows, anartha-nivr, the unwanted things within our heart are removed. Now sometimes when this happens, unless we have very good guidance, we can become discouraged. If a room is extremely dirty, if it hasn't been cleaned in 100 years, it looks really dirty. But when you start to clean it, it looks 1,000 times dirtier than when you first came in. Yes? When you first come in, the dirt in the room is on the walls and on the chairs and on the floor. But when you start cleaning it, it's all over you. And you're breathing it, and you're choking on it, and you can hardly see because it's in your eyes. So you may think, actually, it's dirtier now than it was when I first came. But it's the process. During the story of the churning of the ocean of milk, Lord Vishnu told the Devas, you churn this ocean, make allies with the Asuras, and the result from the churning of the ocean is nectar will emerge, which will give you immortality and a tremendous capacity for happiness. So they worked so hard. They really, really worked with tremendous determination despite all obstacles. And what was the first thing that came out? Poison. They could have given up. thinking, well, why should I have faith in this Vishnu? He told us to do this journey. We did all this. We had faith in him. And we did the bhajana-kriyā. We're sure we got the mountain. We took Vashuki, the rope. We started pulling all kinds of obstacles, all kinds of difficulties. We struggled so hard. And what's the result? Poison. Poison's coming out. It wasn't a few drops of poison. It was so much poison. It was spreading and expanding throughout the universe, and it was the most deadly, strong poison that was ever created. What to do now? This is part of the process. Vishnu said you should go to Lord Shiva, ask him to help you. And Lord Shiva drank it all. So similarly, when this poison, we have so much poison in our hearts. Lust, envy, anger, pride, greed, illusion. It's not that when you start chanting Hare Krishna, it's creating this. What's happening is it's releasing it. But when it's released, you start to see it. Yes? And it's not so nice to see. So we need the association of people like Lord Shiva, devotees, who can help us through this situation. If we take shelter of great Vaishnavas, Vaishnavana Yadaksham, then we can keep the churning process going. And they can help us to remove all these poisons. But they come out. So do not be discouraged. Srila Prabhupada told us it's very important that you study these books and discuss his books in order to be steady in our devotional service. Because inevitably, the nature of the world and the nature of the whole process, if you want to become purified, is there's going to be obstacles. There's going to be things that start coming out that you never knew were there. But let it out. Yes, fever is healthy. It helps the poisons come out. Or like Romapada was citing about certain things that came out of me when I was trying to get purified. We're not going to go into any details. Such a distinguished audience. So this is anartha-nivr. As we're practicing our Krishna consciousness at that state of bhajana-kriyā and anartha-nivr, on the basis of discipline, on the basis of determination, on the basis of enthusiasm, we carry on and we don't give in to obstacles or to temptations because we know it's not the right thing. Now, after nishtha is ruci, the higher taste. Nishtha is between anartha-nivr, where all these unwanted things in our heart are removed, and ruci, the higher taste. It's like the bridge between the two. It's the state where we are experiencing Krishna so much. We are experiencing the satisfaction of devotional service. The higher taste of loving Krishna so much that no matter how many obstacles or difficulties may come, they don't really bother us because we have that higher purpose. We have a strong foundation. By our spiritual practices, such a foundation has been created that how many storms come in our life, we remain steady and strong. And by continuously practicing on this level of nishtha, gradually ruci, the development, deeper and deeper, of this higher taste takes place. And from that bhava, we're actually the beginning of true, unmotivated, uninterrupted love of God begins to manifest. And we can taste it, we can realize it. Āsakti, such deep attachment, then this love for God. The whole process of devotional service, from the beginning to the end, through all these stages, is essentially the same. To cultivate attachment to service to God, to service to devotees, and to service to all living beings. The stages that we're talking about in these various classes are the internal realizations. But from the very beginning of śraddhā, all the way to prema, we're just trying to cultivate that seed of attachment to Krishna. How? By replacing our attachments in this material world with Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada spoke the highest, deepest things in the simplest ways. You like to hear all kinds of music? Hear music about Krishna. You like to eat nice food? Eat prasad. You like to sing? Sing about Krishna. You like to hang out with people? Associate with devotees and do all these kinds of things. You like to see beautiful things? See the wonderful dancing in the kirtan. See the wonderful beauty of the deity who is manifesting himself. As we make spiritual progress, the deity, who in the beginning we have faith that this is God. But our realization, it's a statue that's God. God is manifesting within this statue. But as this ruci, as this higher taste develops within us, when we see the deity in the temple, the ecstasy of our love for God is seeing God directly, personally. How is that? Everything is the energy of Krishna. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartate. I am the source of all material and all spiritual worlds. Everything emanates from me. Everything is the energy of the Lord. And by his own free will, at any time, for the sake of exchanging, reciprocating, and inspiring love with his devotees, he can appear anywhere, at any time. Srila Prabhupada was challenged. Why? How is it that Krishna can appear in wood and stone? Is that not limiting Krishna if you're saying Krishna is in this form of the deity? And Prabhupada's response was so simple, but so absolutely logical. He said, isn't it limiting God to say he can't appear in this wooden or stone deity? Krishna is a vidya, he is swarat. He is all-knowing, independent. And why does he descend in this world? Just to attract our love. Just to attract our hearts back to his loving service. And why does he do that? Because he loves us. Aham bija pradapita. He's our father. He's our mother. He sees that we're suffering. And he sees that even our happiness is destined to be suffering. Because it's temporary. Even the best thing you have in your life. I'll try to use a crude example. A few years ago, the Chicago White Sox won the World Series. How many of you are in bliss about that now, when you see how much they're losing all the time? Yes? So that's the nature of everything in this material world. You have some happiness, but because it's all temporary, it all changes. But Krishna, he wants to give us real happiness, the happiness of the soul. That is Satchit Ananda, eternal, full of knowledge. That is real ecstasy. So Krishna appears within this beautiful form of the deity to provide us the opportunity to sing for him, to see him, to serve him, to love him. And one may think, well, all the deities look a little different. Which one's really Krishna? Krishna's in all of them. And he's appearing in just a way to personally attract, to conquer our hearts. As devotees from Chicago, they will go to Mayapur and say, oh, Radha looks something like Kishore. Because their heart is given to this form of the Lord. They see Krishna in other forms, but still, Krishna is reciprocating with me in this way. It's very special. And it's real. It's not sentimental. And if we don't believe it, that's limiting Krishna. One time, one somewhat atheistic philosopher approached Prabhupada and challenged him that why you're giving food to the deity? Deities can't eat. Prabhupada told us his reply. Do you want to hear?
Yes.
I was hoping you would say it. Prabhupada said that you are telling me the deity doesn't eat. Krishna says, Patra pushpam phalam toya, offer me a fruit, water, leaf, or flower, with devotion, and I will eat it. So you are saying Krishna cannot eat, Krishna is saying he eats. Who should I believe, the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, or a loafer like you? So when we understand, when we study the great Vedic scriptures, we understand how the Supreme Lord is so merciful, so kind, that he descends into this world again and again and again in so many ways just to give us a chance to make the choice to be happy in his eternal loving service. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya. And of all incarnations, Rupa Goswami tells, Lord Chaitanya is especially magnanimous. Because he doesn't consider what is your qualification or what is your disqualification. He's come in this age of Kali, where people have very little spiritual stamina, very little moral fabric, where there's so many distractions, where it's such a struggle for existence just to maintain yourself or maintain your family. He's come to give literally everyone and anyone the opportunity to achieve the highest spiritual perfection of prema, ecstatic love. By just watering this creeper with the chanting of the holy names. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Just to chant our regulated number of rounds every day, despite whatever may come, is very steady devotional service. Just to follow these 4 regulative principles, despite the temptations and obstacles that come in our life, is a very steady level of devotional service. And Krishna recognizes our sincerity to try. If we are just sincere, to remain enthusiastic, to follow these basic principles, and cultivate the qualities of a humble servant of the servant of a servant, and Krishna will give everything else. Everything else. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he would give even to a completely materialistic person, or even an animal. He could give them prema bhakti in a moment. We read about when he was in Jarikanta. He was putting his feet on the head of Bengali tigers. And the tiger looked at him and he said, "Chant Hare Krishna." And the tiger started dancing and chanting, and tears were flowing from his eyes, and all his hairs were standing on end. He was splashing water on wild elephants. And they looked at him. He said, "Chant Hare Krishna." And they would start rolling in the ground with gigantic tears pouring from their eyes in ecstasy of love of God. What to speak of the trees and the deers, even the snakes were in ecstatic love of God. What to speak of humans? When he would dance at the Radhanath, it is written in the scripture that anyone who saw him, the priests, the pilgrims, the tourists, the regular townspeople, the shopkeepers, and anyone else who was there, just by seeing him, ecstatic love of God erupted in their hearts. And by his mercy, he took a form that was very big size, so everyone could see him. 1 million people were there, but everyone could see him. Now we hear about these things, and we wonder, why am I not getting it immediately? When the Lord is personally present, the Lord gives special feature of grace. But when we read about it, even 500 years ago, or even 5,000 years later, we understand the nature of that mercy, the nature of that love, of what he has and what he's giving. And at total price, Srila Prabhupada promised us Krishna promised us. Just follow these simple principles of living a moral life of good character. Develop this quality of being a servant of a servant of a servant with humility. Become attached to the association of devotees and chant the holy names. Just do that. And the same realization that yogis would have to sit in celibate austerity for 60,000 years to achieve, you can have it in this very life. Faith is very important. This śraddhā. Through all the different stages that we're talking about in our Sunday programs, it's a development and increasing of this śraddhā, this faith, where faith actually develops into its purest form of ecstatic love of God. But we require faith to carry on. Some people feel, what is this sentiment of faith, religious faith? But factually, everyone, whoever they are, they live moment after moment in this world on the basis of faith beyond their sensual scientific experiences. How do we know the sun is going to rise in the morning? How do we know who our mother and father is? How do we know Barack Obama is the President of the United States? Have you been to the White House to see him? You have faith in television, you have faith in newspapers, you have faith that George Washington was the first President of the United States? Faith! You have no personal, direct, sensual experience of it. So our faith in God and Krishna and in Krishna's message is on the basis of established holy books that have enlightened people since in the beginning of time. Faith in holy people whose lives are the very crescendo of humanity as far as their qualities. Faith in the words of sages, rishis, and faith in our own logical acceptance that yes, this makes perfect sense. Guru Sadhu Shastra, the Guru speaks, what the Scripture speaks, what has been confirmed and preserved over the years by the great sages. This faith can carry us beyond the sufferings of material existence. It's not blind faith, it's reasonable, real faith. And it's the basis of every great spiritual system throughout history. So yes, we have complete faith in the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. And we saw the living embodiment of that in Srila Prabhupada. He gave his life unconditionally, selflessly for you and me. He wanted nothing in return. Despite heart attacks, strokes, threats to his life, poverty, attacks by politicians, attacks by crazy people, despite every possible difficulty, he never questioned his mission. He carried on because it was based on love, based on compassion. The greatest power in all of creation is love. In a perverted state, it can totally corrupt even the greatest leaders of the world. But in a pure state, it can protect us from all dangers. And it can empower us to do anything for the welfare of humanity. Prabhupada at 70 years old, on the basis of faith in Krishna and his Guru, and the love that was born of that faith, he traveled around the world 13 times, established over 100 centers, published tens of millions, hundreds of millions of books, and that love is still, even over 30 years after his physical disappearance, is energizing and empowering tens of thousands of devotees all over the world. So yes, this faith is something very precious. We have seen it. By hearing about these divine activities of Krishna and his devotees, by associating with devotees who are striving for that faith, it will help us. It will empower us to progress to the stage where there is realization. The realization of prema bhakti. And Srila Prabhupada, as Lord Chaitanya's messenger, made it so simple. Just have faith that Krishna is not different than his name. And with great determination and sincerity, chant. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare